again. It's a Redskin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jayden Bryce Show, the show where we talk about the hottest topics in the world of sports. Welcome to today's show. It's an exciting one. I'm finally back. I got my device pretty much figured out to a certain degree, and we are here to talk some sports and get on to the next evolution of my podcast. So welcome to today's show. We're going to be getting to a multitude of topics that has occurred over the last couple of days in the NFL. John Harbaugh, the headliner of today's show, was fired a couple of days ago. I'm going to be giving my interpretation on that. I'm going to get into some Seattle Seahawks. Will they be able to contend in the NFC and represent the NFC in the Super Bowl? We're going to talk about Josh Allen and his legacy going into the playoffs. Then we are going to talk about the Chargers and that matchup between the Patriots. And we're going to end today's show off talking about the Dallas Cowboys. And I'm giving my final thoughts on their season and their potential future. So a lot of exciting things we're going to get to today. But before we get into everything, make sure you guys like, subscribe to my podcast, check out my podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into today's show. So, John Harbaugh, he was officially let go by the Baltimore Ravens a couple of days ago. And this was a very shocking news. Now, if we recall and go back to my podcast roughly last week, I brought up the matchup between the Steelers and the Ravens going into the final week of the season and how that game had a lot riding on it. And the storylines for each team was kind of like, okay, whoever loses that game, their coach is 9 times out of 10 going to get fired. It was just a matter of time. But I did say it felt more like the Steelers were going to get rid of Mike Tomlin rather than the Ravens get rid of John Harbaugh, just because of the success the franchise has had. We got to recall that the Steelers hadn't won a playoff game since 2016. And John Harbaugh, he took his team to the AFC Championship game just a couple of years ago in 2023 when they arguably had the best team in the NFL. And Patrick Mahomes just went into M&T Bank Stadium and did what Patrick Mahomes always does. But this was pretty much bound to happen. If we go back and recall what has occurred over the last couple of days, let's do a recap. I talked about how there's been a lot of noise this season about there's a little bit of tension between Lamar and John Harbaugh. And there was an article that came out from the Baltimore Sun just a couple of weeks ago. I think it was like Christmas, the day before Christmas, or even Christmas Day, that there's a lot of tension going on between Lamar Jackson and John Harbaugh. A lot of people tried to write it off, but it was obviously true. And the owner, he had an ultimatum. It was either you choose your 3-time MVP quarterback, Lamar Jackson, or you choose your 18-year head coach, John Harbaugh. And without a shadow of a doubt, the easy answer to that question was to choose Lamar Jackson. So you kick John Harbaugh out of the door. I can't say this is necessarily the right or the wrong move because you look at the coaching market. John Harbaugh right now is the best coach in the coaching cycle that is available. I'm not really what's the word I can use here? I'm not ecstatic about the current coaching availability right now for people who you could potentially hire to be a part of your ball club. And not only Lamar Jackson reportedly had tension with John Harbaugh, it was also the players. His voice was waning in the locker room to other players, Derrick Henry, Rashad Bateman. It was reported that John Harbaugh and the owner, they had an hours long worth of a meeting. And he kind of came up with this ultimatum, pretty much saying, hey, Todd Monken is not leaving my coaching staff. So there is some tension there. Now, the thing with John Harbaugh always has been, he was a special teams coach. Like, he's not an offensive or defensive guy. He was pretty much your culture changer. That is not what Baltimore really needs. Baltimore, for years, since they've been established, has been a pretty stable franchise. They just need offensive talent. And when we think about the Baltimore Ravens over the last couple of years, their problem, outside of just this year, has been the offense. Now, this year, the defense has been bad. But you've went through a multitude of offensive coordinators. I mean, Lamar Jackson, he won an MVP with Greg Roman, and then he won one or two with Todd Monken, either or vice versa. But it wasn't an easy move to make. You've had multiple successful seasons. Even the last couple of years. Last year in the playoffs, you lost a playoff game because Mark Andrews drops the ball in the end zone. The year before that, Zay Flowers fumbles the football, trying to extend for a touchdown against the Chiefs at the AFC Championship game when you had the best team. And years and years upon that, when Lamar Jackson wasn't showing up in the playoffs. This guy won a Super Bowl with this franchise. And even before Lamar Jackson, I checked his playoff record. He was like 4, 5, 6 games above 500. And then when he got Lamar's been 3-5 in the playoffs. But they've fallen short, and it hasn't been because of Harbaugh. Granted, a lot of people this year has pointed to the penalties and things of that nature, not being a pretty suited up team that like we've been accustomed to for a John Harbaugh and Baltimore Ravens-led team for the last couple of years. But I would question, with this move, attaching yourself to Lamar Jackson over John Harbaugh. Granted, the city of Baltimore would have rioted if they would have gotten rid of Lamar Jackson in favor of John Harbaugh. Let's be totally honest here. But Lamar Jackson cannot stay healthy. He is 29 years old, going on 30. He's missed a lot of games. I don't have the correct statistics, but I've already done my research beforehand. He has missed a lot of games. In fact, he and Joe Burrow has missed the same amount of games the last 5 seasons. And on top of that, even though that hasn't been the case over the last couple of playoff runs, Lamar Jackson in the playoffs relatively has not shown up. And everybody points to Lamar Jackson when playoff time comes. Even last year, we were pointing the finger. Just don't let it be you. And granted, Lamar Jackson has not lit up a playoff stint. He just has not. And moving on from John Harbaugh, might have been time for it. I mean, you've been with a franchise for 18 years. Outside of Mike Tomlin, he was the longest tenured coach with a franchise in the NFL. But if you're Baltimore, this could have not been an easy move to make. And obviously, you're going to favor the players. The players weren't happy with John Harbaugh. They were tired of him, and his voice was waning in that locker room. Now, it has been reported that there are a slew of teams in the running for John Harbaugh. He is not even without a shadow of a doubt the best coach in this coaching cycle. And there are teams that are just fired their coach who want him. And Adam Schefter even reported there are teams who currently have head coaches who are considering interviewing John Harbaugh. And as of right now, before I start the show, Miami, the thing was with Miami and Mike McDaniel, they were going to keep Mike McDaniel. Now, they just fired him. So who knows who else might be following this trend to get into the John Harbaugh sweepstakes. Adam Schefter even reported like, yeah, John Harbaugh's phone was just ringing off the hook. His agent said John Harbaugh's phone was ringing off the hook whenever he got fired. Like everybody is wanting this guy. So it might be a win-win situation for not only John Harbaugh, but maybe even the Ravens. But I legitimately caution tying yourself and putting all the tools into the table for a guy like Lamar Jackson, who has been pretty injury prone for the majority of his career. The Seattle Seahawks. This is, obviously, I've talked about this team numerous amount of times. And to be quite frank, the Seattle Seahawks has been a team that has had their little bits of up and downs over the last half of the season. They started off the season playing fairly great football. Like Sam Darnold, he was on this run where they're like, this Sam Darnold just revolutionized or revitalized his career. Now, we were saying that when he was with the Vikings, but I, for one, when he got signed to Seattle and Seattle paid him all this money, I was sitting here like, oh, man, are you sure you want to tie yourself to Sam Darnold like this? And my Lord, has it paid off. They are the number one seed. They get the bye, and they are pretty much set up as the favorites in the NFC. Now, I wanted to talk about this because this was kind of something that I wanted to base myself off of what I saw last Saturday. Obviously, I have not been able to talk about the game. I didn't want to talk about the game because it was so old, but I just wanted to talk about the Seattle Seahawks from this perspective. Should they be clear favorites to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl? And when I thought about it, I said absolutely. This team, without a shadow of a doubt, feel like the clear favorites in the NFC. If Sam Darnold does not turn pumpkin, if he does not do that, I, without a shadow of a doubt, feel this team can represent the NFC. Because, and this is the ultimate reason why, it's because of that defense. If we go back to a multitude of games over the last couple weeks, and this is and my thought with this stems from the Seahawks' latter half of the season. Because I've talked about for multiple weeks leading up to the final weeks of the season. You had that game Thursday night against the Rams. Sam Darnold throws 2 horrific interceptions, but defensively, they're elite, and they helped Sam Darnold make a way and bring himself back into the game and make up for his mistakes. You have the game against the other night against last week against the Niners. Great. I mean, the Seattle didn't light up. Now, they controlled the game, but it's not like Sam Darnold was lighting up the place. He wasn't playing super elite. Atlanta, it was 6-6 at halftime. The defense was able to keep Sam Darnold in the game to where in the point in the second half, the Seattle Seahawks just blew away. And also the Indianapolis Colts game at home. You kicked 6 field goals. And those 6 field goals helped you win the game. We've talked about the Dallas Cowboys a multitude of times this season, how if they just had just a good defense, they could win games. The Seattle Seahawks defense is absolutely excellent. They are, and I tweeted this when I was watching the 49ers game. I said without a shadow of a doubt, it feels like this team has the best defense in the NFL. Mike McDonald has done an absolute job with this defense. When the Baltimore Ravens were contending for a Super Bowl, it was because of Mike McDaniel's defense and his play calling. And ever since Mike McDonald, I keep wanting to say Mike McDaniel. Mike McDonald, ever since he left, the Ravens defense has not been the same. Not even close. There were memes when John Harbaugh was fired over the last couple of days. Everybody was posting these old photos of Mike McDonald, and they were sitting there like, might have shouldn't have done that. Yeah, that's what we're talking about when it pertains to the impact of Mike McDonald and his play calling on the defensive side of the football. And when you look across the NFC, there are no teams that absolutely scare you. If Seattle were to face the Bears, the Rams, the Niners, the Packers, the Panthers, and the Eagles, I would bet the Seattle Seahawks to win that game 7 times out of 10. I feel like Seattle beats those teams. Out of 10, the 10 times they face them, they beat them 7 out of the 10 times. Sam Darnold literally, he has to have a game like he had last year in the playoffs, where he was just absolutely horrendous to the point to where the defense is not, they don't have the superheroes. Well, not the superhero. They don't have the ability, the superhuman ability to bail Sam Darnold out of how atrocious his play could be. And that's what happened last year. And I even talked about it last week. It's like Sam Darnold was identically in the same situation, ironically, like he was last season. Final game of the year. You win the game, you get the number 1 seed. And against the Lions in Week 18 last year, he blew that game up. And in the playoff game, wild card round, blew that game up. But last Saturday, he was able to put all that behind him and put on a very decent, not great, but pretty good to decent performance. And now the Seattle Seahawks get home field advantage, the 12th man behind them. And without a shadow of a doubt, that stadium is one of the hardest places to win football games. It is up there with the Philadelphia Eagles Stadium and a multitude of others. That is a hard place to win games. And the Seattle Seahawks, without a shadow of a doubt, are going to be favored in the multitude amount of games that they are going to be a part of. My guy, and I love this man so much, Josh Allen. We could pretty much agree that it seems this playoff is very, very important for our guy, Josh Allen, for a multitude of reasons. If we think about everything that's happened so far in the AFC playoff, the AFC playoffs are without Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, and Joe Burrow. Let me repeat that. Going into this season, nobody predicted that this playoff would be without Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, and definitely without a shadow of a doubt, Patrick Mahomes. So I may be in the minority, but I feel like, I truly do, I feel that this playoff run is super crucial for Josh Allen. Is this Allen's chance to dominate the postseason? Absolutely. If you go look up the current line that Vegas has in this matchup against the Jaguars, the Bills are on the road and they are favored 1.5. A Jaguars team, if I'm not mistaken, we're on a 6 to 8 game win streak to close out the season. Super hot, very good defense. Trevor Lawrence is playing the best football under Liam Cohen that he's had in his career. They are the 3 seed. They were in the run for the 1 seed. if they had some things to fall in their way in week 18. And Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills are the favorites in this game. Because it's without question that Josh Allen is the best quarterback in the AFC. And arguably, more than likely, in this playoff. Josh Allen, all season, because of the poor play of Patrick Mahomes, has been considered the best quarterback in the NFL. He hasn't played on an MVP caliber level like Drake May or even Matthew Stafford statistically. But if we think about it, this is not the best team that Josh Allen has been a part of. This team, and I've said it over the course all year, this is a very bad football team. Structured-wise, roster-wise. Josh Allen has saved him all year. Josh Allen has had to put on his Superman cape in order to have the Bills where they are right now. Could you imagine? We just got done talking about Seattle. But can you imagine Josh Allen being a part of the Seattle Seahawks right now? With that defense, those weapons on offense, that running game, the Seahawks, without a shadow of a doubt, are going to win the Super Bowl. But in comparison to the team that Josh Allen currently has on the Buffalo Bills offensively, they're not good. James Cook and a bag of chips. Now, I love Dalton Kincaid, but he's been hurt for, I wouldn't say majority of the season, but a few games here or there throughout the season. Dalton Kincaid has been hurt. His tight end group is the best unit they got. They got Brandon Cooks midway through the season. Because Brandon Cooks got released at one point. They picked him up off waivers. And he, for the last couple games, has been their best wide receiver. Got this other guy, Shavers. He was throwing one-on-one balls to Shavers, and he was catching them. He's a pretty decent player. Joshua Palmer, they just don't have guys at receiver position. You got a guy like Keon Coleman throughout the season was a healthy inactive because he wasn't even going to team meetings. This is what Josh Allen has had to deal with this season. And don't even get me started about the defense. Granted, they're not the worst unit in the NFL. Not good. Joey Bosa is their best pass rusher. Ed Oliver, he tore his bicep. He hasn't played majority of the season. Matt Milano, been pretty much a shell of himself. The secondary, not been great either. So without the play of Josh Allen, this team would not even be in the playoffs. If it wasn't for a team like the Kansas City Chiefs falling off the edge of the earth like they did this year, the Bills wouldn't be in the playoffs. It took a superhuman type effort from Josh Allen to get them where they are. And if Vegas is telling you that the Bills are favored, they are telling people in the NFL, they're telling everyone in the betting world, they're telling every analyst, Vegas is, and they're saying, we believe Josh Allen is due for a all-time legacy run this playoff. Your kryptonite is not even there. The Kansas City Chiefs aren't even in the playoffs. Yeah, you get to go play the Patriots, who you've played twice, and you've beaten them already one time. You get to play the Chargers, who we're fixing to talking about next. They're Justin Herbert's one of the most sacked well, not even arguably, but he is one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the NFL. The Patriots, their first playoff run. Bo Nix and the Broncos, a lot of people has been calling them frauds for the majority of the year. And there's Josh Allen. You're going up against Drake May, Justin Herbert, Bo Nix, Trevor Lawrence. All these guys have question marks. And in the AFC, Josh Allen, you are, without a shadow of doubt, the best player in this playoff. Vegas is saying that. I am saying that. Now, granted, He's going up against my guy, the Prince who was promised. Y'all know I love me some Trevor Lawrence. I have been super ecstatic about how well he's been able to play under Liam Cohen. I love this Jaguars team. And I've wanted the Bills to go to the Super Bowl for years. But it's kind of like they picked the worst time because there's other teams in the AFC who I would love to see, like the Texans, CJ Stroud. I'd love to see them make a run. Justin Herbert, y'all know I love me some Chargers. I want them to get over the hump. The Bills, I want to get over the hump. Jaguars, like there's some the only team I'm praying on the downfall is the Broncos to a certain degree because I got a bet with a friend saying that like the Broncos are not going to do anything. But it's just bad timing. You know, I'm kind of rooting for the Jaguars. I'm rooting for the underdogs. And, man, Josh Allen, I think he has a chance to have a super, super dominant postseason run. And I did tease it just a while ago. Patriots, Chargers. Now, there's many storylines you can honestly, truly take from this game. From one angle, which is the main angle that I'm going to take, is Justin Herbert. I wanted to talk about Justin Herbert in the same light as Josh Allen. This is another guy who arguably is due for a run. Justin Herbert has played phenomenal this year, given his circumstances. He and Drake May. This game right here is kind of your prototypical, just gotta love both quarterbacks. Justin Herbert, he's been the most sacked quarterback in the NFL. He's been sacked 54 times. 54! And that is one of the three most sacked quarterbacks. It was Geno Smith and Cam Ward. We're only ahead of him by one sack. They got sacked 55 times between the both of them. He's been standing in there, playing the best he can, given what he's got. He hasn't had Joe Alt on the offensive line. He lost him. He only played 6 games and made the Pro Bowl, which I didn't talk about the Pro Bowl. I've been wanting to talk about it, but that absolutely made no sense, whoever voted on that. For Sean Slater, you lost him in training camp, and that has led to Justin Herbert just having to run for his life. I remember if you look back to the Eagles game that they won, what was it, roughly week 15, 14, Justin Herbert got smoked. I was worried Justin Herbert was even going to make it out of that game alive. Alive. That is how just absolutely that defensive line of the Eagles put Justin Herbert in a blender. And he hurt his hand, and that's been a huge question mark, and that's kind of inhibited his ability to throw the ball well. And now the Chargers were the 7th seed with 11 wins, and they found their way into the postseason. And Justin Herbert, just like Josh Allen, feels like another quarterback who it's about time for him to get on the run. And can Justin Herbert upset the Pats? I don't see it, y'all. I don't. I love me some Justin Herbert. I'm rooting for him. I feel like him and Jim Harbaugh are arguably my favorite quarterback head coach duo in the NFL. I love me some Jim Harbaugh. Even though for some reason he just can't get out of his old ways. He needs to get into modern times with his offense. But the defense with Jim Minter is phenomenal. They are great. Jesse Minter, not Jim Minter. Jesse Minter is in conversations for a head coaching job. Kind of feels like he might get one with all the head coaching vacancies currently available. But the offense just has not been good. And the offensive line has not been good. And I do not see a scenario where the Chargers win this game. Justin Herbert sat week 18. He got rested up. I even saw a quote that came up on Bleacher Report yesterday that Justin Herbert was pretty much focusing on healing his hand with him being out for pretty much a mini bye that he had. And with the way the Patriots defense has played this season, who have been pretty sneaky good, I just do not see a scenario where Justin Herbert and the Chargers come out with a win. The only way, and I mean the only way, I truly see the Patriots or the Chargers winning this game, rather, is if Drake May and that offense just plays absolutely atrocious. Drake May plays one of his worst games he's played all year. And we're talking about a Drake May who's in the MVP conversation. So there really hasn't been a game this year where Drake May's played horrifically bad. From thinking from the top of my head, the only game I think where Drake May just pretty much quit and just wasn't fully playing at the type of level that he should be playing is the game against the Bills at home. In the second half, that offense just did it. They scored. They were up. They scored 23 points in the first half, and in the second half, they just were absolutely anemic. The way they played the second half offensively, that is the only way I see the Chargers winning this game. And now that can happen. It truly can. But I just don't trust this offense. He's one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the league, Justin Herbert. They have a middle-of-the-pack offense. They're 20th in scoring. They're middle of the pack in points, touchdowns, all the other statistics that you can bring up offensively. And they have been the weak link. And the only way, this defense has got to play amazing. Derwin James, the defensive line, like they have to do a job. Jesse Minter, Jim Harbaugh, they have to go into meetings this week and just say, look, we got to win this game defensively. Because offensively, Justin Herbert is walking with a crutch going into this game. The defensive line is more than likely licking their chops, getting ready to face the offensive line of the Chargers. And Christian Gonzalez and the defensive backs are pretty much like, yeah, nobody on this wide receiver score scares me. Yeah, Ladd McConkey, but Justin Herbert's not even going to have time to even allow the wide receiver routes to even develop. So I'm loving the Patriots in this game. But although this is an interesting line, and this is the reason why I mainly wanted to talk about this game, just like the Bills. Vegas is pretty much saying that the Patriots might have benefited from an easy schedule. Why? If we look at the line is currently only 3.5. We know that the home team automatically gets 3 points. But the line has only moved in favor for the Patriots a half of point. So they are really questioning if Drake May and the Patriots are legit. Now, we know the Patriots have benefited from an easy schedule. They've had a top 3 easiest schedule in the NFL. They might even be number 1. That's something I probably should have looked up before I started the show to 100% figure that out. But yes, the Patriots have had one of the easiest schedules across the league. Their toughest opponent was their own division rival. And that was the Buffalo Bills. So yes, Vegas is questioning the Pats' legitimacy to win this game. It's a rookie playoff run for Drake May. Who knows how well he's going to play? Who knows how well the defense is going to play? A lot of question marks for this team. I mean, but my thing is, and this is what I argue, this team won 14 games. This line is weird because a team that won 14 games, you would think at home, 2 seed against a 7 seed, you would kind of think, yeah, I think they would be favored by a touchdown and some points, like a touchdown and a half, 7.5. But no, they are only favored 3.5. So they're favored by a field goal and an extra point. So Vegas might be telling us something. We might be primed for a pretty good matchup. I hope so. I want this game to be great. Whichever team wins, they're both teams that I've cheered for this season, and would be more than happy with either one of them going to the next round. But it's going to be fascinating how well Drake May really plays. He's an MVP caliber quarterback. How does that primarily translate to the playoffs? That's a big question. Could this possibly affect his MVP case? Now, we know the MVP award is primarily a regular season award. But, people's been pretty much on the fence between, should we give the MVP to Drake May? Should we give it to Matthew Stafford? I talked about it last week. Statistically, Matthew Stafford, as of right now, is not even close. Statistically, the best quarterback in compared to Drake May. He has 46 touchdowns and just 8 interceptions. I think Drake May only has 30, 31 touchdown passes. Like, the numbers are not even close. Not even close. But the argument has been for Drake May. He led a franchise a 10-win swing from last year. Nobody expected him to play out as well as he has. And although Mike Vrabel has been the catalyst for the reason why the Patriots have been as good as they have this season, Drake May and the play of Drake May has been part of the reason why. Because if we look across his offense, like, you can say to yourself, like, they need another receiver. Now, granted, Stephon Diggs is good, but he's pretty much out of his prime. He can still make plays when he needs to. They got the guy from Washington State, pretty good player. Mac Hollins, like, they need another wide receiver. They could probably use another tight end. Hunter Henry, he's decent, but he's not like a guy like Colston Loveland. When you watch him each week, he's like jumping off of your screen. And they got the running back, Henderson. That guy's going to be a stud. So they got a good ball club. But this is a Patriots team who they've had some question marks just across the board talent-wise. And a guy like Drake May has been able to take them to a 14-win season. They were in the run for the number 1 seed. They are the number 2 seed. So that's kind of what's going up against Matthew Stafford right now, because the Rams are a 5 seed. They didn't even win their division, or they're not hosting a playoff game. But this is going to be an entertaining matchup for both Justin Herbert and Drake May. All right. So lastly, we are reaching the final topic of today's show. I wanted to roughly just discuss my Dallas Cowboys. And you're probably saying, why in God's name are we sitting here talking about a team who is currently not in the playoffs, not even close to being in the playoffs? Look, y'all know me, okay? I'm going to talk about my Cowboys, if you like it or not. They are my favorite team. I have a lot to say about them on a weekly basis, so y'all can kick rocks. But we're going to talk about the Cowboys. Primarily, I want to talk about them because of their matchup on Sunday, and their season is officially over. How well did the season go for Dallas? Where do I even start? I talked about it on the show when I was making my practice run for my little equipment here. I made a video about Matt Eberflus. Obviously, we're going to everything points to the defense. Matt Eberflus in the defense, defensively, they've been atrocious all year. We're not even going to get on the statistics because I might get depressed having to talk about it. But yes, the defense has been absolutely atrocious all year. And without a shadow of a doubt, once this season concluded, you come to the realization that you have to form some type of identity defensively. Shoddy, you got to give credit to him. I felt like, despite the noise of the fan base, they have been better than expected. When we talk about identity, Brian Schottenheimer, he made the emphasis this season, like, yeah, we are going to run the football. He did that with Javonte Williams. There are multiple games where him, Malik Davis, both of them were roughly averaging 5 yards a carry, 4 yards a carry. Like, Javonte Williams has been a godsend at the running back position, a position that ever since we lost Tony Pollard has not been good. Rico Dowdle and that running back core they had last year, not the greatest, even though he lit it up this year with Carolina. But that has been a focus because that's Mike McCarthy making Dak throw the ball too much. We know Dak has always been at his best when he's had an established run game, and it has showed up this season. Dak Prescott, I think, this is just me. This is a very unbiased take. I think this season, this has been one of Dak Prescott's best years. Without a shadow of a doubt. If we go back to his rookie season, his MVP season back in 2023, the year they choked in the playoffs, 2 seed or 3 seed, and you lose to I think they were the 2 seed. If you 2 seed and you choke it to the Packers. Oh, Lord, I want to cry just thinking about it. But that season as well, just Dak Prescott was phenomenal all season. We talked about it in the Matt Eberflus video. It was pretty shocking. A guy like Dak Prescott, who is this podium guy, he's this class act quarterback. He went live, cameras rolling, post-game interview and said, you know what? Really can't point my play to the reason why we are where we are at right now on the outside looking in to the playoffs. That was absolutely shocking to hear from a guy like Dak Prescott, who has always been the guy on the podium who says the right things. He never says the wrong things, but he was very vocal about that component of the Dallas Cowboys. He felt like he played very well, and rightfully so he did. And he can't point to his play as the reason why the Cowboys were where they are at this season. I have to just pretty much tip my cap to Dak. That was absolutely phenomenal for him to actually say something that was pretty controversial for once. I loved it, Dak. I want more of that. But before I even get more on a high horse here, defensively, they were pretty bad. So that's a pretty bad comment for your star quarterback to say that about your defense. If I'm Quinnen Williams, and granted, they probably know this already, but I would have been just a little bit offended. Like, dang, Dad, you wanna talk about us like that? But there's a whole lot going on with the Matt Eberflus thing. Everybody was trying to stir up Cowboys media. They're trying to stir up the pot a little bit when the Dallas Cowboys posted on their social media team posted a quote that Jerry Jones said about Matt Eberflus exiting from being the defensive coordinator, and it showed pretty much all the Dallas Cowboys players defensively and offensively liking the post. It was a little messy, but this has been the worst defense in the league. Again, statistically, we're not going to get into it. They need to draft 2 studs with this draft pick. They got to. They need players everywhere. They need a corner, need a safety, need an edge rusher, and a linebacker. Defensive tackle, obviously, is set. It's pretty weird and ironic how, for years, we've complained about the Dallas Cowboys not having the defensive tackles. And when they made the trade for Quinnen Williams, it's kind of went backwards. Before the Quinnen Williams trade, it's like, okay, our focus is we don't have the defensive tackles. And now it might have been that the defensive tackles were so bad that when you actually get the defensive tackles, you actually realize just how bad you are everywhere else. You need a cornerback. You need a linebacker. You need a safety. Like, you need everything. And, once for the next couple of months, we're going to talk about draft picks and who I would like and things of that nature. But obviously, as of right now, my favorite player, without a shadow of a doubt right now for Dallas draft with one of their picks is Caleb Downs. He's a safety. You can put him anywhere. You can make him play slot. Like, he's a guy you can put anywhere. Dallas currently has the 12th pick. Safeties, they've never went in the top 10 historically, but they are saying that this guy's that talented, and that might be an exception this season. I'm not saying that gladly. Hopefully, I want Caleb Downs to slip a lot in the upcoming draft, but that's a component there. I think that'll get their defense better. I think they need to draft. I don't think corner. I think corners is a position that they can get at a latter round. I just think edge rush is just super important. Jadeveon Clowney was your best edge rusher. He was the best player on the field on Sunday in Week 18. That's pretty bad. Now, Donovan Ezeraku, we thought he was going to be that big edge guy that we were going to need. He had the most sacks in the FBS his final year, but he just hasn't been able to finish. That is something that I'm very much looking forward to guys like Jadeveon Clown to get in the offseason with Quentin Williams and him being able to work with his pass rush and get into the ability to be able to finish. That is something that I'm looking forward to in the offseason. But you need a guy like a David Bailey or Reuben Bain. Who knows if those guys are going to be available. The draft season is going to be exciting for the Cowboys because this is going to be the first time that they've had multiple first-round picks in a draft that I can't even remember the last time they've had multiple first-round picks in a draft. So they just need teams. They just need picks everywhere. Offensively, outside of Dak Prescott, we got to give credit again. Javonte Williams had over 1,000 yards. Pickens had the best year of his career. He had 1,400 yards. He's a Pro Bowler, and he's more than likely going to make an All-Pro. Dak, I think, could make an All-Pro as well. CeeDee Lamb, he's another guy that you think about. He had a quiet another 1,000-yard season. I think he broke a record or something like that with Michael Irvin. So he's another player. He's been phenomenal. But Dallas has got a bright future. Now, Jerry Jones and him had a press conference the other day. I'm gonna talk about that in a later date. I gotta actually watch it, but obviously there was a whole lot of hoopla about that, so we'll discuss that at some point. Yeah, how well did the season go for Dallas? Ultimately, we can say how do I put this? I think that we can really say, in some people's eyes, they underperformed. But I remember going into this season, I honestly did not have high expectations. I did when Micah was on the team, but ever since when they made the Micah trade, I just really said to myself, I do not see a situation where this team makes the playoffs. You just look across the board defensively. They just didn't have the guys. And it showed. It really showed this season. And even after the trade, I was not one of those on that train that was saying that Dallas could make a run and make the playoffs. I was still questioning. Now, in the thought in my mind, fanning me, I was like, the biased fan at times, I was like, okay, maybe this is probably doable. But still, in the back of my mind, I was telling myself, man, there's just no way. That is just a daunting task, tough hill to climb. And the Cowboys, the season probably didn't go as planned for Jerry Jones and company, but I can say this. I can really definitively say that I feel like the Dallas Cowboys have a bright future. The future is bright. It just depends on if Jerry Jones is really going to spend the money in free agency like he needs to. How are they going to maneuver those picks? I think they need to trade back that last pick up a second or third round pick because they currently don't have one. Those second and third round picks are really crucial, specifically in this draft because it's loaded with talent defensively. You would like a second or third round pick to get that cornerback that might slip. A guy like Gerard McCoy, he tore his ACL. He's a guy you can get with a second round pick. I wouldn't want him with a first round pick, but you could probably get a guy like that in the second round. Like there's a lot of talent that you're going to want to get in the second and third round. So I want to see them trade back, get an extra pick. And Jerry Jones even said, we're drafting defensive guys with those two picks. So, however you take it, I think the Cowboys season pretty much ended up how I thought it would be. 7-win season again. I think they had 7 or 6 wins last year, one or the two. And the Dallas Cowboys season has come to an end. Super fast season, might I add. This NFL season feels like it has flew by. Maybe it's just because this year was my first full year actually covering the NFL. Last year I wasn't pretty consistent with my content, but week in, week out, I covered the NFL. It flew by like the snap of my fingers. And now we are here. It is wild card weekend in the NFL, and I cannot wait to discuss more other games in the coming days. I'm going to go live tomorrow, and I'm going to be live Saturday because there's a lot I got to talk about. Even college football. I was sitting there, I forgot, man, I got to talk some college football. There's college football games tonight. We got Ole Miss and Miami tonight. That's going to be a good one. So we got some good college football, wild card weekend, a lot to go into the next couple of days. And I'm going to be here and I'm going to be ready for all of the action. I'm going to hop off here. Been a pretty good show. I enjoyed it. I hope you all did. It was pretty fun maneuvering my little thingamajigger here. I enjoyed it. Thought it was pretty fun. I thought it went pretty smooth, if you might ask me. And I hope you all enjoyed. Thank you for being a part of today's episode of the Jayden Bryce Show. I hope you all enjoyed. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, check out my podcast on Apple and Spotify podcasts, and I will see you all tomorrow. Enjoy the college football tonight. We're going to be getting into some more topics. There's been more firings. There's a whole lot of stuff I got to talk about going into tomorrow's show. I love you all, and I will see you tomorrow.